Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, Maths Made Easy with Terry in 10 minutes. So we're going to talk about addition and subtraction of vectors. So I know in the previous times I've talked little about addition, I talked about the component, but now in this video I'm going to go deep into it. So please, it's very important that you've reviewed the previous videos on how to add vectors. I just made some light suggestions there, light concepts there. And also make sure you also review the concept of the 2 and 3 components, okay? That concept, okay? We're going to talk about it now fully, and we're going to solve examples using that. All right, before I proceed, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. If you've not clicked the notification bell, I don't know what you're waiting for. Please do so that when I post new videos, you'll be the first person to know. So vectors are slightly more complicated to add and subtract. So the first thing you need to do is to ask yourself, are the vector components known? Are the vector represented visually? If the components are known, it's easy. You can just add the X component and the Y component. But if it's visually, you need to also take note of the magnitude, take note of the directions. And we're going to talk about 3 methods in this video. There are more, but I'm going to just restrict myself to 3 methods here. I'm going to talk about the first method will be when the vectors components, you know them, or we can also use when you don't know them, but they are visually represented. We'll talk about the tail and head method. We'll talk about the parallelogram method as well. So we'll talk about each of these methods in this video. Because I know students do take notes, I'm going to write what I just said down so that you can have that. So you can also go back and review. So the next video, I'm going to talk about the first method, where I'll talk about how, when the vectors components are known. Then the subsequent videos, I'm going to talk about the 2 other methods, okay? All right, so what I said was that vectors are slightly more complicated to add, okay? So vectors are slightly more complicated to add and subtract. Okay, so there are always 2 questions to ask. So when you want to add or subtract, there are always 2 questions to ask. The first thing you need to ask yourself is that, are the vector components known? Number 2, the next question you need to ask is that, are the vector components visually represented? Or just like, are the vectors visually represented? Okay, so we're going to talk about, there are 2 methods we'll talk about in this series. So I'm going to list them now. So we're going to talk about 2 methods on how to add or subtract. So there are 2 methods, 2 broad methods we'll talk about. The first method is method 1. So in this method here is when the components are known. So when the vector components are known, okay, so this is pretty straightforward. So when these vector components are known, how do you go about it? So this is the first method. Now, the second one will be subdivided into 2, okay? So these are when vectors are just visually represented with their magnitude and direction, okay? So in this case here, the vectors, okay, are represented So the vectors are represented visually with magnitude and direction. Magnitude and direction, okay? So here we're gonna break it into two. So we're gonna have method 2, okay? So here is what we call the head to tail method. All right, so we're gonna have it's called the head to tail method. This is, or some people can call it a triangle method. So some textbook will call it a triangle method. Now the method 3, the third method, is what we call the parallelogram method. So this is the second method, and this is the what? The third method. Okay? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to play around with, talk about each of them. So I'm going to talk about these 3 methods in the subsequent video. So next video, I'm going to talk about when the vector components are known. After that, we'll talk about the head to tail method, and finally the parallelogram method. All right. So I'm excited and I'm pumped. I'm going to see you in the next video, where we're going to talk about how do you add or subtract vectors when the vector components are known. See you soon.